Marisela deserved better. Marisela deserved better than Raul on October 4th when he couldn't get to his apartment, when he let her go back out alone. Marisela deserved better than Chuck. Marisela deserved better than any of these nonsense issues about the Dallas Police Department and things that happened after the investigation. Marisela deserves better than to be talked about, look at what she's wearing in opening statements. Marisela deserved better than to be a photograph in a Dallas County courthouse in the state of Texas versus Lisa Dykes, because Lisa Dykes lost control in October of 2020 of a man she was obsessed with, Charles Beltran, Chuck. Because she lost control, couldn't get a hold of him. He brings home a woman after she's told him no. And she straddles Marisela in the middle of the night, in her sleep, in Dallas, Texas, here in Mesquite. Lets her die. Wraps her body up in trash. And dumps her in Wilmer, Texas, right off the road, off Post Oak Road. But what Marisela does deserve are you 12 and the two alternates who spent a lot of time last Monday sitting over here, and we talked about all these issues. We talked about the law. We talked about a lot of things. It was a very active session. You all spoke quite a bit. And you are here because you agreed and you said, I can do this job. You are here because you said, I can handle this job. There was nothing about this job that said, I can't do it. All 12 of them. Right? In jury selection, last Monday we talked about what is beyond a reasonable doubt. We talked about there's no legal definition, but obviously it cannot be 100%. 3 people in that room that night. It's not 100%. It's not beyond all doubt. It's not beyond all possible doubt. You all agreed with that, right? It's all about being reasonable and using your common sense. Keep that with you throughout this, right? We talked, and just to put this out there, right? There should be no doubt in your mind Marisela is killed in that bedroom that evening, in the early hours of October 5th. Look at all the evidence you have. There is no doubt of that. We talked about this. What is that a picture of? Many of you knew right away. Some maybe need some more. So let's talk about that. How does that relate here? Maybe one of those puzzle pieces is Chuck's testimony. Right? A pretty important piece. It's not the only piece. Right? We've got those call detail records that show this defendant, Nina Morano, right where that body's left. Right? We've got Lisa Dykes calling into work October 5th. We've got the DNA results that Marisela's blood is in the carpet pad of that Kensington address. We've got that Lisa Dykes quits her job on October 16th. The week news articles start to surface about Marisela missing. We've got that's the day after she gets a call from the FBI. And that she lied to the FBI. We've got the whole picture, right? Like we talked about, are you willing to get back there with circumstantial evidence, lay it all on the table, and weigh it all with one another? See how those pieces fit together. How do they all come together? What checks back with what? Take away Chuck's testimony, right? Start with Chuck's testimony out of that puzzle piece. That's all accomplice law tells you to do, is that does his testimony make sense? Is it corroborated by anything else? There's not any specific thing that has to be corroborated, just is his testimony corroborated about the offense that took place and her involvement? And it is. The motive, all kinds of things are corroborated each step of the way by what Chuck says. But take his puzzle piece away, put everything else on the table first. Don't look at just the one piece, right? The defense has, you heard Ms. Dykes, she's got an answer for every single puzzle piece. That they're all just unlucky coincidences. Don't do that. You said you wouldn't do it, don't do it. Lay them all on the table, weigh them against each other, and weigh them individually once they're all in front of you. Then you can start to see what the actual picture is, right? We talked a lot about this, right? Is it reasonable to weigh an individual piece of evidence by itself in a vacuum? You all answered, no. Why not? That makes no sense. That's not how we're going to do our job. So don't do it that way, right? Weigh them all individually, right? We talked a lot about circumstantial evidence. That's what you have here. You do have a lot of circumstantial evidence. You have quite a bit of circumstantial evidence. A lot of strong circumstantial evidence. So wait, right? You said, hey, I understand that there are a lot of criminal cases that may be just circumstantial evidence, and I can do that job. I can give a fair trial, and I can make sure that justice is done. Motive. We talked about each and every one of you. Why? Why is motive important? You answered about why motive is important. You heard people answer. Of course, that is an important thing for us to know. And you have plenty of evidence that you've heard of this trial as to her motive. The only person with motive and a reason to kill Marisela October 5th, 2020. We talked about his evidence, his flight and evidence of guilt. Absolutely, you all said. Weigh it. Consider it with everything that you have. Okay? We talked a little bit about the law of parties. It's in your charge, right? Because obviously you have multiple people here, right? That you're criminally responsible if you do something with someone, committing that criminal offense, right? If you aid, you encourage, you solicit, right? You help in some kind of way. Everyone understood that. And that's also why Charles Beltran is guilty of tampering with a human corpse, because whenever he sees this happen, and he tells Lisa, instead of calling 911, fine, take care of it, and she says, grab Nina, and he does, he has now aided, assisted, and helped. And he took responsibility for that. And his punishment's being assessed. It's 20 years in prison. He knows that. We talked a little bit here also about the witness testimony, right? It's going to be your job to weigh all the evidence that comes from that stand from witnesses, right? People you've never met, you've got to weigh. What are you going to believe about them? All, some, or none, right? We talked about ways that you have tools to weigh their credibility. Weigh it back to the physical evidence. Weigh it back to the documents you see. Tie it back to what you hear from other folks, right? How many witnesses did you hear from? And how many of those come together and start to paint the exact same picture? You all said, yeah, I can do that. So I just want to leave you with this, right? Don't go back there. The defense counsel comes out, and there's excuse after excuse after excuse for each little thing, or to talk about Charles Beltran. They're all just one little puzzle piece. Don't focus on the one until you put them all on the table. When you put them all out on the table and back in that room when you're deliberating, that's when you start saying, hold on, this piece maybe doesn't fit, but maybe I still see the picture there. And I'm confident that at the end of this, you will bring quick justice for Marisela, because it is the right thing to do, because the state has met our burden, and you will find Ms. Dykes guilty of murder and tampering with a human corpse. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, again, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to serve as jurors. I know it's been a long trial. You made any excuses you could have given us. Again, you didn't do that. You accepted responsibility, and now it's time for the state to accept responsibility for these allegations that they brought against Mrs. Dykes. I told you in the opening statement, I told you from the beginning, this is not about puzzle pieces. We're not talking about pieces of puzzles. We're talking about either you got the evidence or you don't. Because we're not talking about puzzle people. We're talking about Miss Dykes' life. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about her life. Whether she's going to be labeled a murderer, whether she's going to be labeled a felon. They have the obligation to bring evidence that proves this case beyond a reasonable doubt. They haven't done that because she's not guilty. She did not commit the offense as Charles Beltran told you. And they're absolutely right. Marisela does deserve better. She deserved better than DPD gave her, than Detective Ramirez did in the investigation of this case. I submit to you, it's one of the worst homicide investigations in Dallas County history. You know, we talk about false confessions and how they typically lead to wrongful convictions. You know, this was a terrible investigation. I had to call Detective Ramirez to put her on the witness stand. They don't want to support her. I called her so you could see her, you could hear from her, and understand how she botched, how they botched this investigation up. Because she had blinders on once she believed she knew what happened in the case and how she manipulated Charles Beltran into putting it all on Lisa Dykes and Nina Morano. False confessions? Do you think I'm just talking? You think I'm just talking? I'm not just talking. Nina Morano was charged with murder based on statements of Charles Beltran. That was whenever, years ago, when they got charged. Back then, they just dismissed that case. They've been talking to Charles, getting him ready to testify at least 4 or 5 times with the state and his attorney, preparing him to testify. Talking about all the inconsistencies that even after he talked to the detectives the first time, he still had. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to tell you is you cannot believe Charles Beltran. He's a liar. You know that because he gave story after story after story after story. These girls will have to believe, oh, he's such a, sugar bear. She's a sugar mommy, he's a sugar bear. He's so gentle. Well, if a gentle person had witnessed the horror that he's alleging Marisela went through, don't you think that would have affected him somehow? Don't you think that would have affected him in some manner? Everybody that came in contact with Charles said he acted normal. He acted normal. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what happened to Marisela, other than she got her teeth knocked out. But what I do know from her family, from her friends, they all told you that she smoked weed, but she was not the type of girl that would go on a one-night stand with somebody like Chuck. I submit to you that what the evidence shows is yes, she met him, she wanted weed, but that's all she wanted from Charles. But he wanted more. Remember he said, if you come to this room, you're going to have sex. That's what he said. That's what he meant. I submit to you, I believe the evidence showed that he did take her to the apartment, somehow get her over to the house, wanted to have sex with her. She didn't want to have sex with her. Either he hits her in the mouth, I don't know who hits her in the mouth. Somebody knocks her teeth out. And I wanted to make sure I made a big point of that with the dentist. Those teeth, she had her teeth at 7-Eleven. Now her teeth are missing. That is physical evidence. Men lie. Women lie. Physical evidence does not lie. The drops of blood that were on that carpet are more consistent with someone having their teeth knocked out and bleeding, and then someone later trying to get it up, than a stabbing. That's why he's backing off the stabbing now. That's why they're backing off that she was stabbed. That Lisa's standing over her and she's stabbing her. Because any crime scene expert, officer, knows that when you stab someone, ladies and gentlemen, the knife goes in, the blood comes out. The knife goes in, the blood comes out. The splatter is against the wall. Especially, that's why I had him do the demonstration, if you throw someone against a wall that has blood over them, you would anticipate that blood on the wall. There's no blood on the wall. There's no spatter on the floor. There was no tussle, no struggle, the way Charles Beltran lied to you about. The physical evidence does not support that. Men lie, women lie, physical evidence does not lie. If this was a stabbing, where is the blood spatter? Stabbing. That's what they have to prove in their indictment, beyond reasonable doubt. Stabbing. Stabbing. Now, to submit to you, he's pausing because, see, now they know. He's talked to the detectives, he's talked to the state all these times. They know that wound don't show blood spatter consistent with a violent stabbing. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, if it did happen the way he said, she's in such a rage, she's so angry, she straddles her over the bed. The bed is right there on the wall. Where's the blood? They're struggling, they're both up. She's trying to get away with that. Where's the blood? Where's the blood? You can't get the blood up, ladies and gentlemen. You can make it appear like it is up, but you can't get the blood up. It's still going to show when you do that, the blue star. When Lisa is supposed to be going back to her room or going back wherever in the house to get out of this gown that clearly would have been dripping. I don't want to talk about her injuries. Just the gown. She's supposed to be naked. Marcella's supposed to be naked. Where are the blood droppings? Where are the blood spatter? It's not there because it didn't happen the way Charles told you. It didn't happen that way. There's no evidence, other than Charles Beltran, that she was even killed at Mesquite. I submit to you, when you look at all the evidence, and they have to prove this. They have to prove this with evidence beyond reasonable doubt. They have to prove when she was killed. Look at the autopsy report. It says March 24th of 2021. You know that's not true. That's when they found the body. They have to prove that. Even as far as when the body got to Wilmer, where it was located, because of all the animals scavenging out there, potentially moving the body before it decomposed. You don't know when the body got there. So they say, okay, their phone's pinging. Let's talk about that. The phone's pinging in the Wilmer area. Well, if you look at the report, and I'm not going to pull it for you, you'll see all the towers. You got one in Wilmer. You also have one in Hutchins. I submit to you that the ping from their phone is because they went to the FedEx location in Hutchins. If that FedEx location wasn't there, trust me, they tell you it is there. That is what happened. Coincidence? What? There's no evidence that the body was even out there on October the 5th. Not one shred of evidence. Not one shred of evidence in regards to when the body is out there, other than the fact that they found it on the 24th. And I said it to you, I don't believe the body was out there because you got those, remember the FBI agents say they went to the area that they felt like the phones had pinged. They went to the whatever landfill, the area with the cement and stuff. They went out there. You got FBI agents combing that area looking for any evidence regarding Marcella's missing body. Nothing. It's later when the whoever is putting the traps out, and that's how they end up finding the body. But when they initially go out there, again, there's no evidence that that body is out there. But they need that because they have to have cooperation. They have to have cooperation. They don't have it. The blood does not corroborate the fact that Marcella was stabbed. I'll submit to you is just as consistent that that blood came from her teeth being knocked out. The phone pings does not corroborate that this offense took place the way Charles Beltran told you. It's not corroboration, ladies and gentlemen. It's not. So all you really got is an accomplice witness putting it all on Lisa Dykes. And that's important, ladies and gentlemen, because again, I wish you could have heard his interview with Ramirez and Ortiz. You know, all the lie after lie after lie he told about, you know, again, not knowing what happened to Marcela's. I dropped her off. I thought she took an Uber, lie after lie. And it was only after, hey, they're going to say, you're the monster. And let me also touch base on, look, I didn't say nothing negative about her dress. It's how the kids dress. What I did say, and what I do want you to know, is they filed this case initially as capital murder because no one believed that Marisela would be with someone like Chuck. He knew that. He knew that. That's why he said, well, why did you call the police? Because I didn't think anyone would believe somebody like me. What do you mean somebody like you? Somebody with a record like mine. Somebody with a history of violence. Somebody like me. That's why. I didn't want to get in trouble. Because I knew if they knew what happened, that I was with her, and whoever hurt her, I was going to get in trouble. So when the detective started feeding him this jealousy stuff, he ran with it. When the detectives were telling him, the attorneys are going to put it on you. The attorneys are going to put it on you. This is your only time to save yourself. So tell us. Tell us. And that's when he starts filling in the false allegations about Lisa and about Nina that I submit to you lead to false and wrongful convictions. Yeah, wrongful convictions, because that's exactly what would have happened if a jury heard these allegations that he made about Nina assisting in the stabbing. Nina's assisting in the stabbing, and they went back and found her guilty. Because finally, he says it's not true. She didn't assist. She didn't assist. And there's nothing to corroborate that she did anyway. They're both in that room, just like she told you. They're both in that room asleep. You know, and we wanted to talk to you a little bit about the dog. Just because even though Charles had brought numerous women, numerous guys over to that house, in that room, in that studio, having sex, doing whatever they're doing, smoking dope, making music, doing exactly what you saw on that picture, this video. And the reason I wanted to show you that video is because that's who Chuck Beltran really is. 50-50, half amazing, half crazy. Unfortunately for Marisela, and I agree, she didn't deserve to meet the half crazy Chuck, but that's exactly what I believe the evidence shows. As far as the dog, again, had this happened the way they're alleging it happened, don't you think that dog would have ran in that room? Don't you think there have been blood paw prints everywhere? But there weren't, because it didn't happen the way Chuck told you it happened. All this stuff about them running, all this stuff about them evading, they didn't have to talk to the police. They didn't have to talk to the police, ladies and gentlemen. They told you they felt persecuted, you know? They felt like they were being blamed. They couldn't get a fair trial. That's why they left, that they were afraid of Charles and his people. When he said Santa Marta's always watching, Santa Marta's always watching, they were afraid. Afraid not to cooperate with Charles. They don't know. She could have easily got up there and said Chuck did. But she has no idea what happened to Marisela. She told you that. She's never met Marisela. And no physical evidence corroborates that she did. Nothing. Not one shred of evidence. Even the evidence that they got the arrest warrants on. You know, trying to lead judges to believe that they had her DNA. That was a lie. Nina's DNA, Chuck's DNA, with Marisela's DNA. All those are lies. The cement in the alley, lie. The hair sample, lies. Lies. A botched investigation. Marisela does deserve better than what Detective Ramirez did in this case. They deserve to have the right person found guilty. And it is more likely that Charles Beltran had something to do with her demise. And now he's covering it up, trying to blame everything on Lisa Dykes. Ladies and gentlemen, again, when you go through this jury charge, this is the law. You know, don't make the same mistakes that Detective Ramirez made, speculating, trying to force a square peg into a round hole or whatever puzzle talk we want to talk about. The evidence in this case does not corroborate Charles Beltran's, this last version that he gave. The evidence doesn't corroborate any version that he gave. Version after version, version to Dykes, version to Fred, version to all the girls that he came in contact with, lie after lie after lie. Nothing corroborates it. He's a liar. He can't be trusted. I'm going to ask that you not further suborn this perjury is all it was, in my opinion. But my opinion doesn't matter. What matters is what evidence came from that witness stand. And the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, is the evidence does not corroborate Charles Beltran's version of the horrific murder that he's trying to tell you about. It just doesn't. Blood spatter is real. It's real. But it wasn't in that room. So there was no stabbing. There was no stabbing. Charles knows that. You should know that from the physical evidence. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to submit to you that you should find Ms. Dykes not guilty, not just because that's what the law dictates that you do, but because this was a sloppy investigation, ladies and gentlemen. Do you remember the phone records that specifically showed that after he leaves Mesquite? Remember, they get to Mesquite because they're looking at his phone. But after he leaves Mesquite, he goes to Carmen's apartment. Where's Carmen? Why don't they ever talk to Carmen? Why didn't they check her apartment? Oh, well, her phone went off here about 8 o'clock in Mesquite, so we didn't go to. There's a million things he could have done with the phone. They're out all night. The phone could have went dead. A million things that could have happened in regards to why she can't use her accounts, why she can't use her phone. She's with Chuck 50-50, the monster. Why didn't they check that apartment? Was there evidence there at Carmen's apartment? We don't know. Why did Carmen disappear? Why did she disappear? Ladies, again, we're going to ask that you find Ms. Dykes not guilty because that's what we believe the law and the evidence dictates that you do. But more importantly, because she is not guilty. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, when you all were in Fort Dyer, we discussed that your verdict had to be based on the evidence that you saw and that was presented to you in this case. You also heard that the defense did not have to bring a case at all, didn't have to bring any witnesses at all, but they also could if they chose to. You've heard that you can make reasonable inferences, again, solely based on the evidence, but what you can't do is what you just heard Mr. Harris do. Mr. Harris spent his entire time speculating, making up things that could have happened, maybe could have happened, based nothing on the 404 exhibits that the state brought you and the 12 exhibits that the defense brought you. Nothing that he said was corroborated by anything, the exhibits or the 32 witnesses that we brought you and the 4 witnesses that he brought you. Nothing. Nothing at all. Ms. Dykes took the stand, and when you assess witness credibility, the first thing you need to do is see, is their testimony making sense? Is it backed up by anybody else's testimony? And in this case, she swore on direct and swore on cross over and over and over again that she had no romantic or sexual relationship with Charles Beltran. Yet in her phone, that she is on talking to someone when she gets arrested in March of 2021, March 26th, his name is Lover. She chose that name for him. Yet she sat up there and lied to you. No, he was just a business investment. If she can't give you the truth about that one thing that everybody knows that here, she's not going to give you the truth about anything. Anything at all. Let's read this conversation. She reaches out to Lover, Charles Beltran, and says, "Hey, love, we good?" Takes some time before he responds, and so she says, "Guess not." She wants to know, has he said anything yet? She knows he's the one that knows what she did to Marisela Botello in that room. He's the one that knows, and she kept him close for months. That was her choice. She is not the victim here. She is not the victim here. Marisela is the victim. We good, guess not. Finally, he responds and says, "Yeah." "You?" She says, "Yep, I'm still hanging on. Attorney's seeing the wife today." He says, "Okay." She sat up there and told you she didn't have a choice about Charles Beltran, but yet her next message is, "I really wish we were together." It's hard to watch your own back. And tells him you can't trust anybody either. He says, "I know, love." And then he does what Chuck does and asks for money. He needs to change vehicles. That Jeep that she said was hers, but that he has and drove to Dallas and to New Orleans before he went to Utah, that's in his possession, not hers. He needs a new car. She says, "Yes, as soon as I see the attorney. I had to pay him up front, big gamble, but there doesn't seem to be any issue as long as she signs off." Use your reasonable inference. That right there is evidence, and you can use a reasonable inference as to who she's talking about. She's talking about Nina. Nina's arrested and sitting in jail in Miami while she ran to Orlando. She said, "I called the jail myself." What'd they say? They got warrants for capital murder on all 3 of us. Now, Lisa Dykes has swore to you she didn't know what happened to Marisela Botello or where she was or anything else. Look at that message right there. She said she thought she was out and about on a bender, going to prostitution motels and things like that. Supposedly, they found her. She's talking about Marisela because they found her body just 2 days before. She knows the gig is up. She knows the gig is up. And she's got to get the heck out of Orlando. She's not worried about Nina. She's worried about getting her money. It says, but the attorney says they're building a case. They don't have evidence. They are guessing. I'm hoping she kept her shit together. She wants you to think that she cares about Nina? That she thinks Nina's on suicide watch and so she's hoping she keeps her shit together in that way? No, she hopes that Nina keeps it together and doesn't talk. That's what the evidence shows. I need to get out of the state real quick. She's not trying to turn herself in. She's trying to run again. Ask Chuck, how much money do you need? How much can you send? I need to make moves. She says, I have no idea how much there is until I get her shit, Nina's shit. She wants you to believe that she wasn't using Nina for money. She's trying to get her shit. She's not talking about trying to get Nina out of jail. She's not talking about trying to help Nina, about caring about Nina, about being worried about Nina. She's talking about getting her shit so she can get out of this state. I'm trying to go to our fave spot that I wanted to live for a minute. You think you could get to me there? This woman that testified to you that she was so terrified she felt like she didn't have a choice is asking Chuck, asking this man that she's obsessed with, if he can get there to her. Or do I need to come get you? Says, I thought you got paid today. I did. This guy was $2,000 to get the money off of Nina. Who's she worried about? She's worried about herself. She's worried about Chuck. She's not worried about Nina, but she's worried about getting that money. He just called me. What did he say? Question mark? Mom, she's arrested. The gig is up. Lisa Dykes sat up there and told you that Chuck was just a business investment. She told you that she had lived with family, and Jimmy, her brother, said, yeah, I mean, she was there for us. That's what family does. We get each other's back. We do that. She helped me, and everything was going really well in Mesquite with all of them when all of a sudden, just weeks before, she tells Chelsea and Aaron and Jimmy that they've got to move out. Just weeks before, she met Charles Beltran. She tells Kat De Leon, I can't live the lifestyle I want to live with them here. Not I want them to spread their wings and fly. Not that I want them to take care of themselves. I can't live the lifestyle I want to live with them here. And what you see is the evolution of Lisa Dykes right there from when prior to when she met Charles Beltran all the way through to the bottom. Full tattoos, new haircut, platinum hair, makeup. The last hair appointment she had with Kat, she changes her appearance again, bright pink. She still has the scars from her facelift that Nina paid for. Nose rings. This is the willing evolution of a woman that was obsessed with a young, much younger man that was in the rap scene and in the bar scene, and this is what she thought he wanted her to look like. So that's what she did. That's what she did. But let's talk a little bit about the Lisa Dykes or Lisa Beltran that you met here in court. She was quiet. She was soft-spoken. Her attorney even said, pull that microphone up so we can hear you. Had that little country accent. All of those things. This woman has 37 years of experience in the courtroom. She knows the legal system. She's a negotiator. She's strong. She knows what she's doing. She's successful. She's raised these kids on her own. This is not a soft-spoken, weak woman. This is the woman that when she was confronted in Cambodia in a foreign country by 4 Cambodian officers dressed in SWAT gear and 4 Cambodian officers dressed in uniform, And one FBI agent looked that woman straight in the eye and said, "What jurisdiction do you have here?" That's the Lisa Dykes that killed Marisela Botello, not the one that came here to court today. Because see, she can change who she is for the circumstance. She wants to control the circumstances. When we talk about motive, it's not like she was so jealous of each of these women that he brought home that she wanted to kill them all. It was all about control. She had told Chuck no more. She had told him no more. And yet he continued to not listen to her. And let's talk about the time frame that we are talking about. We're talking about in October when she had just spent all this money on Chuck for a rap concert on October 4th, or October 3rd in Arkansas. The van, the spot, the hotel rooms, the booze. She's walking around in the club. She's getting around just fine. She's done that all for him. All for him. And how does he repay her? Does exactly what she told him not to do. This last slide, ladies and gentlemen, you heard Kat DeLeon talk about her hair was always platinum. Always platinum, maybe some streaks of blonde, something bright. This is what she chose to do for her appearance when she was in Florida. Make no mistake about it, she is trying to hide. She is trying to change her appearance, and she's not trying to be found by the FBI, by the Dallas Police Department, by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, by anybody. Now, again, Ms. Dykes, this chart shows the nexus between all the witnesses that were called in this case and the people talked about in this case and how they were related to each other. Ms. Dykes got the benefit of hearing every single person in here talk. And what did she say? Of course, she starts with Charles Beltran's a liar. We'll get to his testimony in just a minute. But the Charles Beltran's a liar. Her brother's a liar. Her co-worker, Olivia Martinez, is a liar. Kat DeLeon, her hairdresser of years, she's a liar. Jamie Scarpa, that she's met one time, that woman's a liar. Chuck's girlfriends are all liars. Freddie Chapman, when he says that she's driving, he's a liar. And so is Dax Stevens. The only person you don't see marked with liars, the only person that didn't show up, and that's Kyle Williams and his girlfriend, Valerie Sanders. You heard the call about why he didn't show up, because she told him not to. Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, Ms. Dykes talked about her medical records yesterday proving what I don't know. She had a hard time with this thigh surgery? Sure. If you read through this, what you'll find is that you have a non-compliant patient, a person who wants to be in control, is not listening to the doctors and causing her own problems. But more specifically, when you look at the appointment date on 9/22 of 2020, that's September 22nd, 2020, it talks about how on that day she's discussing with the individual that is looking at her. The notes indicate that Miss Dykes tells her on that weekend, I have a trip to Los Angeles planned. That weekend is not October 3rd. We're talking about September 22nd, 2020. That weekend is September 26th, 2020. She had a trip to Los Angeles planned with Nina that weekend. But what she told you is that, oh, no, we didn't actually plan on going to Arkansas. That was because we had to cancel our trip for October 3rd that we were going to take to Los Angeles because the doctor told me I had to. And you can read through these notes yourself, but that particular appointment, the medical professional tells her, look, you don't need to go this weekend on your trip. And Miss Dykes was insistent that she was going to go. What you're going to find from those medical records as well is that on October 2nd of 2020, not October 3rd of 2020 as Ms. Dykes said, but October 2nd she had a follow-up appointment, and the doctor's notes indicate everything seems fine, and they didn't schedule another follow-up appointment until December. If she was in that kind of pain, as she had described to you all, don't you think they would be seeing her on a regular basis? At that point, everything is starting to come back together. Everything is starting to be fine, so much so that she can go to Arkansas, drive 4 hours in a car, walk around a club, and party with a bunch of younger men at a rap concert, at a rap show. In October of 2020, Lisa wants you to think that all of these are coincidences. That she renewed her lease, which shows that she intended to be there for a full year, although she testified that, hey, we were already planning on going to Florida. Her lease documents show otherwise. She's planning on being in Texas for a while. That on October 5th, she calls in for an unknown reason. That's the day that Marisela is supposed to return. That's the day that she goes missing, and she calls into work, unexplained. Her call records show her down in Wilmer. Coincidence that the very next day, her wife, Nina, is desperately searching passport offices. How to get a passport fast. How to change your name on a passport fast. The very next day. Lisa's hair in her last appointment goes pink, and there's continued passport Google searches. The very first news article that comes out about Marisela is a WFFA news article on October 11th. Nina urgently wants to sell her Pennsylvania home the very next day. Calls Jamie Scarpa and says, I need to list it today. Not in a week, not let's sit down and talk about it, today. That's just a coincidence. Lisa gets a phone call from the FBI. She tells all her coworkers, oh, it's fraud. It wasn't a real person. But tells that FBI agent that she could see on the Ring camera was legit, and tells him, I haven't seen him in some time. I don't know where he is. I don't know his number. I don't know how to get in hold of him. The very first time she's contacted by law enforcement, she lies. And then the very next day, she quits. Unexplained, just out of the blue, according to her coworker. Is that just a coincidence, too? These are all just in October. October 31st, that first search warrant in the Kensington house looked like they had moved quickly. It was abandoned, property left there. But the blood had been cleaned up. That blood had been cleaned up for sure. And that's her house. Make no mistake about it. She knows what goes on in her house. She's in control of what goes on in her house. When we're discussing the phone records that put her in Wilmer, this shows earlier that day that they are all in the same area at that Kensington home. And if you'll recall, Mark Sedgwick talking about the time that the green arc, that timing advanced record, that is a different record that you get from Marisela's phone because it's a different provider, and that's almost real time. And you see right there in the middle, she's at that house. That yellow square indicates the Kensington, 3113 Kensington house. She's there. She's there with Chuck. Then you see the next day, you heard Chuck's testimony. He left out of there, and he didn't go back that day. And his phone records support that. He tells you he went to get an oil change, that he hung out at Carmen's apartment in the parking lot, that he never saw her. Then he went down and got an oil change. And then he goes on and hangs out in the Deep Ellum area later that night. And you heard corroborating testimony about all of that. But here's the interesting slide. That red square right there, that is the location where Marisela Botello's remains were found. And if you recall Mark Sedgwick's testimony, that the azimuth is kind of the direct line where you see that V. The azimuth is that kind of direct line, and that indicates the direction in which those cell phones are pinging from. So they're within that little angle right there. And these are all the pings of Lisa's phone during that time period. They start at 6:36, then you have one at 6:43, 6:50 for Nina's phone, 7:02, 7:07, 7:16, 7:22, 7:38. And each and every one of those, that azimuth is pointing towards the location where Marisela Botello's body was found. She wants you to think she was at a FedEx place in Hutchins. There's Hutchins right there. That's Hutchins. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 other towers that if they were really in Hutchins, at that FedEx distribution location, those cell phones would have been pinging off of there. But no, they are within that area of where Marisela Botello's body was found. 2 turns, 2 miles from where she used to live. A left on Beltline, a left on Postover. Just off the road where you can park and pull a body just a short distance off the road behind brush. She didn't think anybody was going to find her before the animals had gotten to her, before her body decomposed completely. And so, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what I'm going to ask you to do with that is don't give her the benefit of her tampering with the corpse because she chose to dump that body out there where she knew nobody was going to look, and it was decomposed, so they couldn't do a full autopsy on her. Don't give her that benefit and speculate that just because of that, there's no way to tell from the autopsy exactly how she died. You know how she died because Chuck told you how she died. And his story makes sense. When it comes to Charles Beltran, we brought you his testimony, but we didn't bring you his testimony uncorroborated. We didn't just throw him up there and say, tell your story, and just leave it at that. There are 404 pieces of evidence that back up his story. Not only that, you have 32 witnesses that the state calls to corroborate bits and pieces of his story. There's not one person that can corroborate everything, but each person can corroborate something. And so let's start with that. Let's start with Raul Ortiz said that she left there and left his place at approximately 1 a.m. or so, 12:30, 1 a.m. because he got sick. And she took a lift down to Deep Ellum. That's corroborated by the fact that the surveillance video shows her walking around by herself. And then she meets Chuck. And you see that surveillance video of her and Chuck meeting, and you can tell she wants to go with him. Was it a smart choice? Of course not. Was it a choice that a young 23-year-old that is trusting of human nature and trusting of people would make in that scenario? Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a tragedy that she didn't know who she was going to be having to deal with later. Chuck did what he always did. You heard from Dax, you heard from Freddie, and they're like, man, this guy, 5 minutes, and he is talking to a woman, he's taking her home. And he doesn't have to force himself on anyone. He doesn't. And guess what? If she didn't want to have sex with him, it's fine. He's got plenty of other women that do. But this girl was cool, and they were hanging out, and they were having a good time. Just like he always does. Just like normal. You heard from Kat De Leon about Chuck and Lisa's relationship, and also you heard that Lisa was livid when she learned that Nina had slept with Chuck without her. Make no mistake about it, Lisa wants to control this relationship between her and Chuck. That is her prize, that is her possession, that is her boy toy. She's the one that pays for everything. She's the one that invests in his rap career. She's the one that brought this man in, and she wants to have control over that. Yes, the three of them were together. Yes, the three of them had sexual relationships together. Yes, she and Chuck had sexual relationships together. But when Nina did it with him, that was not okay. She was livid. And you know that to be true because two people that have never met, that didn't know each other, said that Lisa said the same thing. Olivia Martinez said that when she found out about Chuck and Lisa, she was livid. She said, quotation marks, I'm going to make Nina my bitch. I'm going to make her do anything I say. I take a body to Wilmer after you killed an innocent girl because you want to control the situation? Lisa is the one that got Nina involved in this. As far as what we talked about, what the defense talked about, Chuck's fear is real. He's a young black man, covered in tattoos, that's his choice. Two-time felon, that's his choice. He pled guilty to those offenses, he served his time, and he was out. But when he looked at it, when he ran from that situation, as his girlfriend Jasmine said he always would, as he always did, which is in his nature, which Dax Stevens said that's how Chuck deals with conflict. He doesn't fight, he runs. And Freddie said that's how Chuck is. He doesn't fight. He's a lover, he's a player, but he's not a fighter. He runs. He ran from that situation, and the further that he ran from it, the bigger it got. He told you, he testified on that witness stand, look, I look like the bad guy. I look like who they would be looking for. But I'm not him. I didn't murder this girl. And he had no reason, no motive whatsoever to do anything to Marisela Botello. Defense makes a pretty big issue about the fact that her forefront teeth were missing, and you heard Dr. Casper talk about that the way that those teeth were missing, that they were fully out. They were completely gone, as if they were extracted from her mouth, not a punch in the mouth with broken teeth. Those are inconsistent. When you get punched in the mouth, your teeth break and you bleed. They don't just fall out of your head.
Did you want to check this in the statement of the evidence in this case?
Overall, the jury will recall the testimony as they heard.
They don't just fall out of your head. You are allowed to use your common sense. You don't have to check that in when you are looking at the evidence and listening to the arguments and weighing things against each other. If anything like that happened to Marisela, her teeth would be broken, not completely missing. You understand that there was a lot of animal activity out there. There's a lot of reasons why those teeth might be missing. Her skull might not have been right where it was laying, where it sat when they found it, but it was definitely in that vicinity. Unfortunately, because it was March when they found her body, they couldn't find everything to give you a full picture. Chuck's story makes sense because the DNA evidence corroborates that. This is Chuck's room. You see the two windows right there? You see the blue purplish spot right there where the carpet is. That is where he testified that after Lisa stabbed Marisela, he woke up in his deep sleep. He'd been drinking. He'd been smoking a little bit of weed. He wasn't sure it was real at first.
You have 2 minutes, Counsel.
Thank you. And his reaction was to shove her off the bed, and Marisela came tumbling down onto the floor with Lisa, and then he jumped over and he pushed them apart. That stain from the carpet pad piece is exactly where Marisela's blood was found. Her DNA was found. So the physical evidence corroborates what he says. The phone evidence corroborates what he says happened after that. The records of Pennsylvania, Mexico, Miami, all of those things corroborate Chuck Beltran's testimony, and not one thing of any of this here in any of those witnesses back her up. And she won't even know that she has a relationship. Mr. Brown said Marisela deserved better than that. Of course she did. She's beautiful. She's full of life. She has dreams. She has hope. She has aspiration. And she has to go to work on October 6th. And they want to speculate that she suddenly, within 24 hours of meeting Charles Beltran, became a tweaker, a prostitute, and a drug addict, and was wandering around in Dallas, a place that she doesn't even know. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is just not reasonable. Not reasonable at all. You know that she was killed on October 5th, 2020, because that's the only reasonable conclusion that the evidence supports. Marisela Botello deserves the 12 of you, the two alternates, to weigh the facts and the evidence in this case and to come to the verdict of guilty. But you know who deserves that more? Lisa Dykes. Lisa Dykes is guilty of murder and guilty of tampering with a corpse. And when your verdict of guilty is read out loud in the courtroom, you're not telling her anything that she doesn't already know. We're asking for a guilty verdict on both charges in this case. On behalf of the Dallas County community, the family of Marisela Botello, and our victim, Marisela Botello Valdez. Thank you.